Hey, tonight we're diving into the strange stuff, like really strange. Not UFOs or ancient ruins this time, but the things science still can't explain. And we're not talking fringe theories, we're talking the kind of stuff that makes actual scientists sigh into their coffee and go, yeah, we honestly have no clue. From purring cats to slippery ice, deja vu to dark matter, we're easing into the cozy unknown, where the laws of physics politely refuse to answer your emails. If you're enjoying these late-night mystery marathons, I'd really appreciate a like or even a subscribe. It helps way more than you'd think. And I'm always curious, where are you listening from, and what time is it there? Drop it in the comments. I love watching this little global brain of ours connect from all over the place. Now go ahead and dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan, or let the window crack open just a little for that soft night air. Let's slip quietly into tonight's journey where reality still has a few blank pages, and your dreams might just be smarter than science. It usually shows up during thunderstorms, but it doesn't follow the rules. Not like regular lightning, with its split-second blaze and ground-shaking crack. Not this thing is slower, stranger, softer around the edges, like the ghost of an idea that never quite made it through the approval process. Witnesses say it drifts through the air like a glowing orb, the size of a grapefruit, sometimes bigger, sometimes smaller. It hovers, floats, spins, and then vanishes, or explodes, or glides silently through a wall as if physics just decided to take a 5-minute break. They call it ball lightning, and despite centuries of sightings and stories, science still can't agree on exactly what it is, or even whether it really exists at all. But people keep seeing it, over fields and oceans, in living rooms and airplane cabins. A glowing sphere, flickering like a candle trapped inside a soap bubble. Sometimes it's blue, sometimes orange or white. It lasts for seconds, maybe a minute. It hovers at eye level. It drifts like it's thinking. And when it disappears, it leaves behind the scent of sulfur, scorched air, and a long, awkward silence. Even respected scientists have reported it. Nobel Prize, winning physicists, pilots, military officers. It's not just country folk in the rain with too much imagination. There are logs, testimonies, even a few grainy videos that claim to show it, though they usually look like a flashlight being jiggled in front of a blurry camera. Ball lightning is one of those things that feels too weird to be real, but somehow too consistent to be fake. So what is it? The honest answer is, we don't know. Some think it's a form of plasmaionized gas glowing like a neon sign, born from the chaotic energy of a storm. Others say it's a chemical reaction triggered by lightning strikes hitting certain minerals in the soil, creating little floating fireballs. A few theories go even further. Miniature black holes, microwave interference patterns, even hallucinations caused by magnetic fields in the brain. That last one doesn't explain why multiple people often see it at the same time, or why it once melted a phone cord in someone's kitchen. But it sounds sciencey, so it gets published in a journal. There was one case, back in 2012, where Chinese scientists caught something that looked a lot like ball lightning on high-speed cameras during a thunderstorm. It lasted about 1.6 seconds and emitted the kind of light you'd expect from burning silicon, supporting the ground strike kicks up minerals theory. But even then, the footage was fuzzy, and no one could quite say for sure. One sighting, one video, one sliver of maybe. Meanwhile, the stories keep coming. A woman washing dishes sees a ball float through her kitchen window and vanish through the wall. A hiker watches a glowing orb dance across the trail, then disappear with a soft pop. A family playing cards during a storm sees a sphere hover over their table before exploding with a bang, leaving the room smoky and smelling like fireworks. These accounts don't agree on everything: color, sound, behavior, but they all describe the same central weirdness. A little orb of lightning that acts like it has somewhere to be. And the thing is, ball lightning doesn't even play fair with gravity. It doesn't always fall. It doesn't always rise. Sometimes it moves horizontally, eerily level, as if tied to an invisible string. Sometimes it floats up through a chimney or down from the ceiling. There's even a report of it entering a submarine, a sealed submarine, in the ocean. Either it teleported through several feet of steel hull, or it knocked politely and someone let it in. Neither explanation is especially comforting. Then there's the danger factor. Most of the time, ball lightning seems harmless, curious even, a glowing pet with a short fuse, but occasionally it explodes with real violence. In one 18th century report, a ball of lightning entered a French church, ripped apart stone, set pews on fire, and killed 4 people. In other cases, it's fried electronics, knocked out entire radio systems, or left holes in rooftops. And yet some people say it hovered inches from their face, warm but gentle, like a floating lantern made of science fiction. So here we are, centuries of folklore, dozens of papers, 0 conclusive answers. Why does it appear? Why does it disappear? Why does it sometimes pass through walls and other times go out with a bang? No one knows. And honestly, that's kind of the beauty of it. In an age where we've mapped genomes and sent robots to Mars, the sky still tosses us a flickering question mark every now and then. Ball lightning reminds us that not everything has to make sense, that some things are allowed to be strange and unsolved and glow softly in the middle of a thunderstorm, just to keep us humble. Tonight, as the rain taps on the windows and the thunder mumbles in the distance, you might imagine a little orb of light drifting through the storm, pausing at your windowsill for just a second. It's not here to hurt you. It's not here to explain itself. It's just here. A brief visitor from a chapter science hasn't written yet. A glowing reminder that not even the weather follows all the rules. And just like that, it vanishes. Not with a bang, not with a flash, just silence and the faintest scent of ozone in the air. Like a dream you didn't know you were having, already fading into the dark. Sleep well. Keep your windows closed, just in case. Your cat climbs into your lap, circles once, maybe twice, and settles in like royalty reclaiming the throne. Then it begins. A soft, steady rumble, low and rhythmic, vibrating gently through your legs like a miniature motor running on secrets and vibes. It's one of the most familiar and comforting sounds on Earth cat purring, and yet science still isn't entirely sure what it's for, how it works, or why your cat insists on doing it at 3 a.m. While standing on your sternum, the purr is mysterious. For a long time, people assumed it simply meant a cat was happy, the feline equivalent of a smile. But cats also purr when they're scared, when they're in pain, when they're dying. Some purr while giving birth, some purr at the vet. One purrs while planning to knock your water glass off the nightstand. So happiness alone doesn't explain it. The mechanism is equally strange. Cats don't have a separate organ for purring. Instead, they somehow vibrate the muscles in their larynxeus, their voice box causing a series of rapid contractions around the glottis. This creates the familiar sound, which comes not from their chest but from their throat, rippling down through their entire little body. They do this while breathing both in and out, a feat that requires coordination, effort, and apparently 0 concern for why humans are so obsessed with figuring it out. Now here's where it gets weirder. Some studies suggest that purring may serve a biological function beyond communication, possibly even as a kind of self-healing mechanism. The frequency of a typical cat purr falls between 25 and 150 hertz, a range that just so happens to be associated with muscle growth, bone regeneration, and pain relief in humans. In other words, your cat might be literally vibrating itself back to health. Some animal behaviorists believe cats developed purring as a way to stay strong during long periods of rest, because, let's face it, cats are Olympic nappers. If you're going to sleep 16 hours a day, you might as well rebuild your bones while you're at it. And yet, cats don't always purr alone. They purr around people, around other animals. Some cats purr to ask for food, especially when they're combining that low-frequency buzz with a high-pitched meow, something eerily close to the sound of a human baby crying. This has led some researchers to propose that cats have evolved to manipulate us, not just with those big eyes and twitchy tails, but with a sound that hits us right in the emotional gut. Of course, Your cat isn't going to confirm any of this. You can ask. It will blink slowly, knock something off a shelf, and fall asleep again, purring naturally. Even more curious is that purring isn't universal to all feline species. Big cats like lions and tigers roar, but they can't sustain a purr like your average house cat can. Cheetahs can purr. Cougars, too. But that soft, continuous purr you hear when your cat settles into a patch of sun, that's a house cat specialty. A gift, maybe. Or a secret. So, what is the truth behind the purr? Comfort? Healing? Emotional blackmail? All of the above? No one knows for sure, but there's something deeply calming about the idea that your cat might be purring both for you and for itself, a shared hum that makes the world a little quieter, a little softer. A feline lullaby that says, we're here, we're safe, we're vibrating together. Tonight, as you settle in under the covers and your cat curls beside you, or across your throat if it's one of those cats, you might feel that purr roll through your bones. You might match your breath to its rhythm. You might even find your own pulse slowing, your muscles easing, your thoughts quieting down in sync with that ancient biological mystery humming beside you. Maybe purring is a healing frequency. Maybe it's a secret language only cats and dreams understand. Or maybe it's just the universe reminding you, softly and rhythmically, that sometimes the best answers don't make any noise at all except for a faint, steady buzz in the dark. You're walking through a room, maybe having a conversation, maybe just boiling pasta, and suddenly it hits. That eerie, electric flutter in your brain. You've been here before. Not just in this room, not just with these people, but in this exact moment. The way someone's laughing, the sound in the background, the smell of the air. You know what's going to happen next, not because you've memorized it, but because you already remember it. And then, just as quickly as it came, it fades, leaving you blinking in the hallway or stirring your spaghetti with a quiet, uneasy chill. Déjà vu. French for already seen, a phenomenon so common it's become a punchline. But the truth is, no one really knows what causes it. And the more we try to explain it, the weirder it gets. For something so universal, déjà vu is impressively unexplained. Most people experience it at least once in their lives, some regularly. It doesn't discriminate. Teenagers get it. Elderly people get it. Astronauts in space have reported it. And the feeling is so distinct, so sharp, that even the most skeptical among us can't brush it off as imagination. It feels real. Memory level real. Like your brain just opened a file it's sure it's saved already, only to find it's blank and glowing. One theory says it's a brain glitch, your short-term memory accidentally shortcutting into long-term storage. Basically, your brain accidentally files the present moment under already happened, so it sends it back to you with that warm, weird nostalgic buzz. Another theory blames a tiny lag between the brain's hemispheres, like your left and right side falling out of sync for just a split second, resulting in one side reacting to the moment just after the other. It's a small delay, but your brain is sensitive. That gap can feel like memory. Some neurologists believe déjà vu is connected to how the brain handles spatial memory, your sense of place and familiarity. The hippocampus, the temporal lobes, even the amygdala might all be involved. People with certain kinds of epilepsy often experience intense, recurring déjà vu just before seizures. For them, it's not just a passing feeling, it's a full-blown episode. Like stepping into a memory that isn't theirs, but somehow still fits like a glove. And then, of course, we spiral off the edge of the science into the shimmering unknown. Maybe déjà vu is a time slip, a moment when parallel timelines momentarily brush up against each other. You, remembering something you lived already, but not here, not in this version. Some have called it a glitch in the matrix, a ripple in the simulation, a cosmic nudge from another version of yourself. Others believe it's a sign of reincarnation, ancestral memory bubbling up in the quiet of a Tuesday afternoon. Or maybe it's your future self remembering the past that hasn't happened yet. A loop, a ripple, a leak. All of these explanations, from the strictly biological to the wildly metaphysical, have one thing in common. They don't stop the experience from feeling completely, unnervingly true. No matter how many studies get published, when déjà vu hits, it hits like you've stumbled into a forgotten page of your own life. The moment feels deeper than memory, like déjà vu isn't reminding you of what's happened, but revealing something that was always going to happen. Some people find it comforting, a reminder that time is flexible, memory is mysterious, and maybe the universe is more layered than we think. Others find it terrifying, like free will just tripped on the sidewalk and dropped its papers. Either way, it's a crack in the surface, a brief flicker of the surreal inside the ordinary. Tonight, as you lie in bed, maybe you'll feel it again. That soft little lurch in your chest. That whisper that you've been here before. Not in this exact bed, maybe, but in this stillness. This dark, this breath, that your thoughts are echoing a version of you who once lay down in this same silence and reached the same moment of wondering. You've dreamed this sleep before. You've turned your head this way before. You've read this sentence before. Oh, no. But it's fine. The feeling will pass. The mystery will stay. And maybe, just maybe, you'll dream tonight of something familiar. Something you'll only recognize when you wake. Or maybe next week. Or maybe never. And that's okay too. Sleep well. You've done this before. It starts with something simple. A pill. Maybe it's pink or blue or shaped like a tiny cartoon spaceship. You're told it'll help the headache, the pain, the sadness, the sleep. You take it. You wait. And slowly, you start to feel better. The catch? That pill contains nothing. No active ingredient. No special chemical. Just sugar or chalk or something inert. In the scientific world, it's called a placebo. But the effects? Very real. Welcome to the weird, powerful, and still mostly unexplained world of the placebo effect. It's one of those medical phenomena that refuses to fit neatly in a lab report. The idea that you can experience actual healing, reduced pain, improved mood, or faster recovery simply because you believe you're being treated, it sounds like magic. But it's been documented across hundreds of studies, not just with pills, but with fake injections, fake surgeries, even sham acupuncture. In one experiment, people who thought they were receiving knee surgery actually had nothing done, just an incision, a little theater with the surgical tools, then stitches. And guess what? Many of them got better, reported less pain, walked more easily, because they believed they'd been fixed. This isn't a fringe thing. The placebo effect is so consistent that it's built into how new drugs are tested. Clinical trials have to prove that a treatment works better than a placebo, not just better than nothing, because often people on placebos do feel better, sometimes significantly so. Which leads to the weird, uncomfortable truth. Belief can be medicine. But how? No one fully knows. One theory is that the brain, when it expects healing, actually releases its own cocktail of chemicals, endorphins, dopamine, even natural opioids. The belief creates a kind of internal pharmacy. Imaging studies show that people given a placebo painkiller show brain activity similar to people who took actual drugs. Their brains lit up in the same areas, responded the same way. The body, in a strange and beautiful act of faith, starts doing the work itself. Even more bizarre, placebos can work, even when you know they're placebos. In some trials, patients were told, this is a sugar pill with no active ingredients, but placebos have been shown to help some people, and still they felt better. Their symptoms improved. Their bodies responded, as if the ritual of healing, the routine of taking something, expecting change, participating in the performance of care, was enough to trigger real physiological responses. But the placebo effect doesn't just apply to pills and pain. It sneaks into every corner of life. Athletes perform better when they think they've taken a performance booster. Students test better when they believe their brain's been stimulated. People report fewer side effects if they're told their treatment is gentle. Our minds, it turns out, aren't just influenced by belief, they're rewired by it. And here's the twin shadow of the placebo, the nocebo effect. That's when you feel worse because you expect to. If you're told a harmless pill will cause nausea or anxiety, chances are you might start feeling exactly that. The same brain magic works in reverse. Expectation isn't just a passenger in your health, it's driving the car, steering your body in ways science still struggles to map. None of this means that illness is in your head, or that medicine is optional. It means your brain and body are in constant conversation, and sometimes your brain whispers just the right thing to make your body listen. Sometimes belief heals. Sometimes ritual matters. Sometimes hope is treatment. And that's both comforting and kind of terrifying, isn't it? That a sugar pill could relieve depression. That a fake surgery could ease arthritis. That words, tone, trust, and context, things you can't bottle or measure, could shape recovery more than the ingredients themselves. Tonight, as you drift off, consider the wild strength of your own mind, that it can hurt you, soothe you, trick you, or save you. That a small ritual bedtime tea, a soft blanket, a familiar voice can do more than warm you. It can heal you in ways we still don't fully understand. Maybe the placebo effect isn't a trick at all. Maybe it's a hidden doorway into something much older, much deeper, something your body has known all along. You are the sugar pill, and that is somehow the most powerful medicine of all. Sleep tight. You're getting better already. You'd think it would be simple. You put a glass of cold water and a glass of hot water in the freezer. Logically, obviously, the cold one should freeze first. That's how temperature works. That's what every science class, every popsicle, every winter morning tells you. And yet, sometimes, somehow, the hot water freezes faster. This isn't a joke. It's not an illusion or a one-off. It's a real, documented, deeply weird thing called the Mpemba effect, named after Erasto Mpemba, a Tanzanian student who noticed it in the 1960s when he was trying to freeze ice cream faster than his classmates. His hot mixture froze first. Teachers laughed. Scientists doubted. Then they tested it. And sure enough, sometimes under just the right condition, hot water races past cold water, flipping thermodynamics, the bird, and heading straight to ice. Nobody fully agrees why. Some suggest it's evaporation. Hot water loses mass as it steams, meaning there's less of it left to freeze. Makes sense, except the effect still shows up even when you seal the containers to prevent evaporation. Others think it's about convection, the way hot water circulates as it cools, setting up temperature gradients that somehow speed up freezing. Or maybe it's about dissolved gases. Hot water holds less gas than cold water, which might change how ice crystals form. Or perhaps the container itself reacts differently to different temperatures, expanding, contracting, subtly changing the way heat escapes into the freezer air. But none of these explanations work consistently across all scenarios. Sometimes the effect shows up, sometimes it doesn't. Labs have tried to replicate it under controlled conditions with mixed results. It's like trying to photograph a ghost that only appears when you're not looking too hard. What makes the Mpemba effect especially infuriating, besides the fact that it shouldn't happen, is that it lives in a gap between intuition and precision. It's not reliable enough to build a theory around, not chaotic enough to ignore. It's just inconvenient, a glitch in the physical fabric. A little moment where the universe says, yeah, I don't feel like making sense today. And this wasn't a new discovery, either. Aristotle hinted at it. So did Francis Bacon. Even René Descartes wrote about it. But then we forgot, or stopped noticing, or just decided not to look too closely at the freezer, until Mpemba came along with his ice cream, and persistence, and a question that scientists are still struggling to answer. That's part of what makes it beautiful, in a weird way. In a world where physics can launch satellites and map black holes, something as simple as water in a tray still refuses to behave. It's humbling. It's playful. It's slightly rude. The Mpemba effect is the scientific equivalent of finding out your socks keep drying faster when you soak them in boiling water first. It shouldn't work. It does. Sometimes. Kind of. Maybe. Depending on the wind, the moon, and whether the water's in a good mood. So tonight, as you wind down and the air cools around you, think of that water restless, unpredictable, bending the rules not with defiance but with indifference. It's not trying to make a point. It just does what it does, while we chase behind with clipboards and theories, muttering about anomalies. Somewhere in your freezer, something might be quietly breaking the laws of thermodynamics without asking permission. That's the kind of mischief science can't quite contain. That's the Mpemba effect. A tiny mystery inside your ice tray, humming quietly beneath your frozen peas. Sleep tight, and maybe, just maybe, check which glass freezes first. You open your eyes. You stretch. You think a thought. And that thought is, I am here. But what is that? That soft hum behind your eyes. The quiet observer narrating your entire existence? You're not just alive, you're aware that you're alive. And that awareness, that strange flickering flashlight inside your skull, is called consciousness. The most familiar thing you'll ever experience, and also the one thing science still can't explain. You think, therefore you are. Yes, sure. But what is the you that's doing the thinking? Where is it located? Is it your brain? Your body? A trick of neurons? A soul-shaped squatter riding around in your biology like it's an Uber? Neuroscientists have mapped thoughts. They've tracked which parts of the brain light up when you remember a song, smell fresh bread, or imagine your ex dating someone shorter than you. They can even predict decisions a few milliseconds before you consciously make them. But when it comes to why, we feel like we exist at all, why we have an inner voice, a sense of self, the ability to reflect on ourselves, reflecting well, the whiteboard gets a little blurry. It's called the hard problem of consciousness, a term coined by philosopher David Chalmers. The easy problems? That's stuff like understanding how the brain processes information, reacts to stimuli, stores memory. Hard problem? Why there's anything it's like to be you, why the lights are on, why you're not just a complicated meat robot reacting to inputs, but a sentient narrator whispering, that cloud looks like a horse, while eating cereal. Some theories suggest consciousness emerges from complexity, that if you connect enough neurons and process enough information, awareness just bubbles up like steam from boiling water. But no one can say how or why. Complexity doesn't always equal consciousness. Your smartphone is complicated, but it doesn't lie awake wondering if it's good enough. Others believe consciousness isn't something your brain creates, but something it taps into. That awareness might be a fundamental layer of reality, like gravity or time. Your brain, in this view, is less like a factory and more like a radio, tuning into the universal station of being. This sounds poetic, also entirely unprovable. Yet, and then there's panpsychism, the idea that consciousness exists everywhere, even in particles, atoms, electrons. That everything has a little flicker of awareness, and your human-level self is just a really, really complicated orchestra of tiny little, feelings. Some scientists hate this idea. Others find it oddly comforting, like the universe itself is quietly listening. But maybe the weirdest idea is that consciousness is just an illusion. That what feels like a central self is actually just a story. Your brain is constantly editing, like a director cutting footage to make it all look like it makes sense. According to this theory, you're not the one driving the car. You're just the voice in the passenger seat saying, I meant to turn left, after the wheel's already gone right. And still, you feel real. You feel like you. Not just a collection of cells, but a perspective, a feeling of presence, a thing that feels feelings, that questions itself, that says, wait, is the narrator in my head me or something else? And then spirals gently into sleep. And maybe that's the most haunting, beautiful thing about it, that we'll never be able to step outside of ourselves to study what's inside. That whatever consciousness is, it's also the tool we use to look for it. A mirror trying to reflect itself, a flame trying to see its own light. Tonight, as you close your eyes, and that quiet voice inside says, "Time to sleep," remember, that voice is the mystery. The one that asks, the one that listens, the one that is. You may not know what consciousness is. No one does. But you have it, and for now, that's enough. Every night, like clockwork, your brain unplugs from reality and rolls the dice on whatever fever dream movie it wants to screen inside your head. One night, you're flying through the air like a majestic sleep pigeon. The next, you're falling endlessly down an elevator shaft made of soup. Then you're back in high school, taking an algebra test you never studied for naked. It's weird. It's vivid. It's emotionally confusing. Welcome to Dreams, the original immersive simulator, programmed by a half-asleep intern in your subconscious. We all dream, even if we don't remember it. The brain slips into REM, sleep rapid eye movement, where the body goes limp but the mind goes wild. During this stage, your brain becomes more active than it is during most of your waking hours. But instead of doing taxes or remembering where you left your keys, it decides to show you a montage of your boss morphing into a ferret, or that weird ex from 3 years ago reappearing in a nightclub made entirely of mayonnaise. Science has been trying to decode dreams for centuries. Sigmund Freud, ever the fan of awkward interpretations, believed dreams were symbolic wish fulfillments away for the unconscious mind to play out forbidden desires. His student-turned-frenemy Carl Jung took a slightly more mythological route, suggesting dreams connect us to a deeper, collective, unconscious well of ancient images and archetypes shared by all of humanity. Modern neuroscience tends to wave a different flag. According to the activation synthesis model, dreams are your brain's way of making sense of random neural firings. Essentially, your brain is getting spammed with chaotic signals while you sleep, and instead of ignoring it, it decides, okay, I guess we're going to throw together a scene where grandma rides a unicycle through a burning IKEA while explaining tax law. Not because it means anything, but because the brain hates an unfinished story. Still, some dreams feel meaningful. Some people dream in full color, others in black and white. Some experience lucid dreams, where you realize you're dreaming and can actually control what happens. Fly, teleport, summon a breakfast, buffet anything goes. Some even use this ability to conquer fears or practice skills. Athletes rehearse moves. Artists solve problems. And occasionally, someone just uses the power to punch their boss in the face without HR getting involved. But then there are the nightmares. The brain's very own horror studio. Falling, being chased, teeth crumbling, showing up late for something vague and emotionally catastrophic. These often tie into real-world stress, anxiety, or unresolved emotional clutter. It's your brain trying to process tension, or just being kind of a jerk at 3 a.m. What's truly strange is how dreams blur the line between memory, imagination, and raw emotion. You can wake up sweating, panicked from something that never happened. You can cry over a goodbye that only existed inside a sleeping mind. You can remember things that never were and forget them again by breakfast. Even stranger, sometimes dreams seem to predict things. People dream of phone calls that happen the next day, of people they haven't seen in years showing up suddenly, of answers to problems they couldn't crack while awake. Is it intuition? Coincidence? A mind that's more observant than we realize, quietly working through patterns while we rest? And then, of course, there are dreamless nights, or at least nights where the dreams vanish upon waking. Those slippery, misty mornings where you know something happened in your sleep, but it dissolves the moment your alarm goes off, like a chalk message on a rainy sidewalk. Gone, but not quite forgotten. Some cultures believe dreams are doorways to other realms, that we travel while we sleep to ancestors, to spirit worlds, to parallel versions of ourselves living out alternate timelines. Science doesn't back that up, but it doesn't disprove it either. Mostly, it just shrugs and says, "We know you need to dream. We just don't really know why." Tonight, as you drift off, your brain will slip behind the curtain once again, and somewhere, deep in the folds of gray matter and mystery, the lights will flicker on in the theater. A new dream will begin absurd, moving, terrifying, hilarious. Maybe you'll be riding a dinosaur through a mall. Maybe you'll finally confront something you've been avoiding. Maybe you'll just float, slowly, over the rooftops of a city you've never been to but somehow remember. And when you wake, maybe it'll stick with you. Or maybe it'll vanish, like smoke in sunlight. Either way, your brain will have taken you somewhere, and that, in its own strange way, is magic. Sleep well. You're about to go somewhere that doesn't exist. You're sitting there, maybe scrolling your phone, maybe pretending to read, maybe listening to someone tell a story that just won't end. And then it hits. That gentle tug at the edge of your jaw, your mouth stretches wide, your eyes squint, a deep breath pulls in, your face contorts into something between exhaustion and opera, a yawn, out of nowhere. Unstoppable, deeply satisfying, and completely mysterious. The weird part? You probably just thought about yawning and felt like doing it. Maybe you already did it. That's how contagious it is. Even reading the word yawn can start the chain reaction. It's biological mischief, slipping into your nervous system like a whisper. And for something that feels so familiar, so ancient, it's wild how little we actually understand about why we do it. For a long time, people assumed yawning was all about oxygen. The old school theory was that when you're low on oxygen, your body needs to pull in more air, so it yawns to give your lungs a good stretch. More air, more oxygen, more energy. Sounds reasonable, right? Except, studies don't really back it up. Yawning doesn't seem to increase oxygen levels, and people don't necessarily yawn less in oxygen-rich environments. So scratch that one. Another idea? Brain cooling. Seriously. Some scientists suggest yawning helps regulate brain temperature. When you're tired or bored, your brain starts to heat up like an overworked laptop hand. A big ol' yawn brings in fresh air and triggers facial muscle movement that cools the blood around your skull. Think of it as your brain opening a little window and sticking its head out for some fresh air. Still, others think yawning helps maintain alertness, that it's a kind of reset button for your nervous system, a full body stretch that realigns your focus, even for just a second. You'll notice it often happens during transitions, before bed, after waking, in the middle of long meetings where your soul starts floating above your body. Yawning might be your brain saying, "Hey, we still here? Anybody home?" But here's where it really gets spooky. Yawns are contagious, not just socially, but deeply neurologically. Seeing someone yawn, hearing someone yawn, reading the word yawn, it all triggers the urge. And it's not just a human thing. Apes do it. Dogs do it. Some studies even suggest dogs can catch yawns from people, which is both adorable and vaguely unsettling. The contagious nature hints at something more primal. Maybe it's about empathy, a nonverbal way to sync up emotionally with others. A signal that says, we're all in this together, especially when this is an exceptionally boring lecture or a very long road trip. Yawning could be part of how early humans bonded, rested, or stayed alert as a group. One person yawns, the tribe gets the memo, time to rest or time to wake up. And yet, with all this data, all these ideas, there's still no universal agreement on what yawning is or why we do it. It's filed under semi-explained in the great cabinet of biological oddities, right, next to hiccups and why your leg twitches just before you fall asleep. There's also the mystery of why some yawns feel better than others. You know the kind. The slow build, full stretch, neck cracking, eye-watering kind that feels like a small vacation. That's not science. That's pure yawn luxury. The biological equivalent of cracking your knuckles while floating in a warm bath. We don't know why that happens either. It just does, and your body loves it. Tonight, as you ease into stillness and your thoughts start stretching themselves thin, that first sleepy yawn might come creeping up uninvited, but oddly welcome. You'll feel your body sigh from the inside out. Your breath will stretch a little longer. Your brain will flicker like a candle winding down. And just for a moment, that ancient, unexplained reflex will wash over you, soft and inevitable, like the tide. Maybe it's your brain cooling off. Maybe it's your body syncing with a rhythm it's known for millions of years. Or maybe it's just your consciousness slipping one foot into dreamland, testing the water. Sleep well. You earned that yawn. Imagine walking into a room, flipping on the light, and seeing nothing. No furniture, no walls, no ceiling. Just a faint sense of space, a subtle pressure, like something's there, but refuses to be looked at directly. That's kind of what science feels like when it stares into the universe and realizes most of it is missing. Not because we haven't found it yet, but because we can't see it. Welcome to the cold, unlit attic of the cosmos. Dark matter and dark energy too. Things that make up 95% of everything, and which we understand about as well as we understand the inside of dreams. Start with dark matter. Galaxies spin. That much we know. But when scientists measured how fast stars move around the center of galaxies, they noticed something strange. The stars were moving way too fast. Based on the visible mass of the stars, the gas, the cosmic glitter, these galaxies should be tearing themselves apart. There wasn't enough gravity to hold them together, but they didn't fly apart. They held, quiet, steady, impossible. So physicists did what physicists do when faced with an unexplainable mystery. They invented something, a kind of invisible mass. Something that doesn't shine or absorb light, doesn't interact with normal matter except gravitationally. They called it dark matter. Not because it's evil or spooky, but because it's invisible dark to our instruments, our senses, our understanding. We know it's there because of what it does, not because of what it is. It bends light from distant galaxies. It shapes the large-scale structure of the universe. It acts like scaffolding for everything we see. But no one's ever seen a particle of it directly. We've built detectors the size of buildings deep underground just to try and catch one elusive interaction. So far, nothing. It's like trying to catch a ghost using a butterfly net. If ghosts weighed several trillion tons and held galaxies together. Now take all that unseeable mystery and double down. Because if dark matter is strange, dark energy is straight up rude. In the 1990s, scientists discovered that the universe isn't just expanding, it's accelerating. That's like throwing a ball into the air and having it speed up instead of slow down. Something, somehow, is pushing galaxies apart faster and faster, like an invisible wind blowing through the fabric of space. They called it dark energy, because again, no one knows what it is. We just know it exists because everything's moving too fast for gravity alone to explain it. Dark energy isn't clumped like dark matter. It's not a thing in one place, it seems to be everywhere, woven into the vacuum of space itself. Some theories say it's a property of space. Others say it's a field we haven't detected. Some say it'll eventually rip the universe apart. Some say it already is. And here's the kicker. If you take everything planets, stars, galaxies, gas, dust, light, and put it in a cosmic pie chart, all of that stuff we can see, it makes up less than 5% of the universe. The rest is dark matter and dark energy. We are living in a barely lit room, surrounded by shadows we cannot name. That's a little humbling, isn't it? All our history, our science, our technology built on that 5%. Like ants trying to explain a mountain by pointing at a pebble. And yet, we're trying. We run simulations, build particle colliders, launch telescopes into deep space, all to peer into the dark, to ask it questions, and to hope it answers in the language of equations and elegant chaos. Maybe one day we'll understand what dark matter is. Maybe it's a new kind of particle. Maybe it's a glitch in gravity. Maybe it's something we haven't even invented the math for yet. And dark energy? That might be the universe's most ambitious practical joke, accelerating forever toward a future we can't see, powered by something we can't feel. But tonight, as you stare up at the sky or just picture it behind your eyelids, remember, that almost everything up there and in here is made of mystery, that what we know is only a sliver, that we're wrapped in invisible arms, carried by unseen winds, surrounded by questions that don't mind waiting a few more billion years for answers. Sleep well. The dark is not empty. It's full of wonder. You brush your teeth, dim the lights, fluff the pillows, and slide under the covers. Your body knows the drill. Your eyelids start to droop. Your thoughts begin to dissolve into static, and before long you're out, gone. Not dead, not unconscious, not exactly dreaming, just offline, recharging, hibernating like a meat-based smartphone, every single night. But why? We know sleep is essential. You can't go long without it. Deny yourself sleep for too long and things start to get weird hallucinations, paranoia, memory loss, your brain slipping off the rails like a train with no track. Go even longer, and things get dangerous. People can literally die from sleep deprivation. Your body needs food and water. Sure, but sleep is just as non-negotiable. And yet, science still can't give a fully satisfying answer to one very basic question. Why do we sleep at all? One would think evolution, being the relentless efficiency engine that it is, would have found a way around this. Sleeping leaves you vulnerable. It's 6 to 8 hours where you're not eating, mating, running from predators, or building IKEA furniture. From a purely survival standpoint, it makes no sense. And yet, nearly every animal does it. Birds, bugs, lizards, lions, even jellyfish, which don't even have brains, seem to enter sleep-like states. Clearly, something vital is going on. One theory is that sleep is for restoration. Your body takes this time to repair tissues, regenerate cells, boost your immune system, and generally do maintenance work. Think of it as a biological pit stop. Your muscles relax, your heart rate drops, your blood pressure eases. Your brain flushes out waste products. Yes, your brain literally has a cleanup crew that works the night shift. Sleep gives your hardware a break. But that doesn't explain the dreaming part, or why your brain gets so active during certain stages of sleep, especially REM sleep, the rapid eye movement phase where most dreams occur. Your brain waves during REM look almost identical to those when you're awake. If the whole point was to rest, why would your brain be throwing a rave at 3 a.m.? That leads us to another theory: memory consolidation. Sleep, especially deep sleep and REM, seems to be when your brain files away memories, sorts through information, deletes the junk, and strengthens important neural connections. You're basically running a nightly software update. Without it, things get scrambled. Your short-term memory tanks. Your emotions run hot. Your attention span becomes a game of whack-a-mole. Still, that doesn't quite explain everything. Some researchers think sleep plays a role in creativity, connecting distant thoughts, forming new ideas. Others see it as emotional housekeeping, helping you process feelings, reduce anxiety, and maintain psychological balance. It might even be a way to conserve energy, lower your metabolic rate, turn down the lights, and save fuel. Or maybe it's all of the above. But here's the part that keeps scientists humble. We still don't know exactly how sleep works, or why we're wired to need it so desperately. We can describe it, categorize it, observe it in real time. We can map the sleep cycles, identify the stages: light sleep, deep sleep, REM. But the core mystery remains unsolved. There's also the strange fact that not all sleep is created equal. Some people need 8 hours, others thrive on 5. Some dream vividly, others barely remember a thing. And no one can fully explain phenomena like sleepwalking, night terrors, lucid dreams, or why we sometimes wake up 1 minute before our alarm goes off as if our subconscious is a punctual little intern. What about animals? Dolphins sleep with 1/2 of their brain at a time. Birds can nap while flying. Some frogs freeze solid and wake up months later like it's no big deal. Clearly, sleep has evolved in many forms, and we're still just scratching the surface. So tonight, as you prepare to let go of the day and step into the dark, you can take comfort in the fact that what you're about to do is one of the oldest, most essential mysteries in the world. You're joining a tradition that stretches back through every species, every epoch, every night since the beginning of life. You're not just getting rest. You're engaging in something sacred, something science hasn't cracked, but your body has always known how to do. Close your eyes. Let go of the need to understand. The answers can wait. Sleep knows what it's doing, even if we don't. Chop off a salamander's leg, and it shrugs well. If salamanders could shrug and grows a new one. No physical therapy, no prosthetics, just a few weeks of biological magic. And presto, brand new limb, complete with nerves, blood vessels, bones, and the same little toes as before. It's a party trick that seems ripped straight out of a comic book, and yet it's very real. The real mystery is why we can't do the same. We humans are great at many things. We make fire, build cities, land robots on Mars. But when it comes to regenerating body parts, we're weirdly lazy. Cut your skin, and it heals. Break a bone, and it mends. Even your liver can regenerate a chunk of itself. But lose a limb, a finger, a spinal cord? That's it. Game over. We patch, we prosthetic, we compensate. But we don't regrow. So why are we, the so-called pinnacle of evolution, getting absolutely shown up by a slimy woodland creature? Let's rewind to biology 101. Nerve cells, or neurons, are the electrical wires of your body. They carry messages from your brain to your muscles, your organs, your fingertips. And while peripheral nerves, those in your arms and legs, can sometimes grow back a little after injury, it's slow, inconsistent, and rarely full. Central nerves, like those in your brain and spinal cord, not so much. Damage there is often permanent. In contrast, a salamander gets injured and says, "No problem, let's rebuild." Its immune system doesn't freak out and flood the injury with scar tissue. Instead, the cells at the wound site de-differentiate. That means they basically revert to a stem cell-like state, forgetting what they were so they can become whatever is needed. Nerve cells, skin, muscle, bone, they're all back on the menu. These cells form a blastema, a little blob of regrowth potential, and from there, the magic unfolds. We have stem cells too, but our bodies are much more conservative with them. Instead of building a new leg, we usually just slam some scar tissue on the problem and hope for the best. Scar tissue is fast, it's tough, and it gets the job done, but it doesn't play nice with nerves. It blocks regrowth. It says, "We're done here," even when we're not. Some scientists think this all comes down to trade-offs. Maybe, somewhere in the evolutionary past, humans prioritized fast wound closure over full regeneration. After all, in the wild, a half-healed wound is better than waiting 6 weeks to regrow your foot while predators circle. Or maybe it's a matter of complexity. The more intricate the nervous system, the harder it is to reboot without errors. Your body doesn't want to accidentally grow a toe where your thumb used to be. Maybe we've evolved to be cautious because the stakes are so high. But that hasn't stopped researchers from trying to crack the code. Scientists have been studying regeneration in animals like salamanders, zebrafish, and axolotls, hoping to find the secret recipe. Some are even working on ways to wake up dormant regenerative pathways in humans. We've already seen early successes with lab-grown organs, engineered tissues, and even experiments coaxing nerves to regrow under the right conditions. There's hope, but it's still very much in the one day, maybe category. Still, it's hard not to feel a little envious. Imagine breaking a leg and having it grow back perfectly. Imagine recovering from a spinal cord injury by simply rebooting your body. Imagine a world where, "Oops, I lost a finger," is no more stressful than waiting for your phone to charge. That's the dream. But for now, our bodies remain cautious architects, preferring patches and workarounds to full-on construction projects. We heal but not like lizards. We adapt but not like fish. And our nerves? They prefer their roots fixed and unbothered. Thank you very much. Tonight, as you drift off to sleep, spare a thought for the little salamander, curled in its mossy nook, growing a new tail like it's nothing. It doesn't know it's a marvel. It just does it. No questions, no fanfare. Maybe one day we'll remember how to do it too. Until then, we're the underachievers of the regeneration world, dreaming of limbs that come back and nerves that never forget how to grow. It sounds like a philosophy riddle, a late-night dorm room debate. One of those questions that starts with a spark of curiosity and ends with your brain quietly melting. But it's real, it's studied, and it refuses spectacularly to be solved. It's called the hard problem of consciousness, and it goes something like this. How is it that a lump of gray, wrinkled meat your brain generates experience? Not thinking, not reacting, not processing. Experience, the way it feels to be you. To taste strawberries, to hear music, to miss someone, to read this sentence and feel it happen inside your awareness. How does that arise from neurons firing, chemicals bouncing around, and electricity pulsing through circuits? Because from the outside, brains are fairly straightforward. You can scan them, slice them, wire them with electrodes, and you'll see activity, patterns, lights blinking on and off. But none of that tells you what it feels like inside, what it means to be conscious, not just awake, but aware. That mysterious, subjective, first-person perspective that's so constant you forget it's even there. That's what philosopher David Chalmers called the hard problem, as opposed to the easy problems figuring out how the brain perceives light, stores memory, moves your hand when you touch a stove. Those are technical challenges, tough but solvable. But the hard problem? That's the weird one, the unobservable one. Why does any of it feel like anything? You could build the most sophisticated robot in the world that mimics human behavior perfectly. It could smile, frown, cry at movies, say ow when poked. But is anything happening inside? Is there a light on behind the eyes, or just code and mimicry? That's the core of the mystery. How do you prove something is conscious if you're not it? Some argue that consciousness emerges naturally from complexity, that once a system like the brain becomes intricate enough, awareness bubbles up like steam from boiling water. But that just restates the question. Why does complexity give rise to subjective experience? Why not just computation? You can simulate a thunderstorm, but the simulation doesn't get wet. You can simulate love, but the program doesn't feel heartbreak. Others suggest panpsychism, the idea that consciousness isn't created by the brain, but is a fundamental property of the universe, like gravity or mass. In this view, everything has a tiny glimmer of awareness atoms, electrons, maybe even your toaster. Your brain doesn't generate consciousness. It tunes into it, like a radio dial locking onto a cosmic frequency. It's poetic, also untestable. There's also integrated information theory, which tries to measure consciousness by the level of information integration in a system. In other words, the more interconnected and unified your thoughts, the more conscious you are. It's mathematically beautiful, also wildly controversial, like trying to use a Sudoku puzzle to explain love. And then there's the coldest take of all, that consciousness is an illusion, a clever trick your brain plays on itself, a byproduct of information processing that only feels real because you're wired to narrate your own existence. In this view, you are just the story the brain tells itself to stay organized. Comforting, right? But illusion or not, the fact remains. You are here, reading this, experiencing it, noticing, feeling your own thoughts echo softly in the background. That awareness silent, constant, ineffably real to you, even if no one else can detect it. So we call it the hard problem, because it might be the final frontier. The last question, the one that sits quietly beneath every other mystery, waiting patiently while we solve physics, chemistry, AI. Waiting for someone to finally explain how subjective experience arises from objective matter. Tonight, as you lay your head down and prepare to fade into sleep, let yourself notice the strange little light inside your mind, the one that watches your thoughts, that hears the hush of your breath, that wonders if it will dream tonight and if it will remember. You may not know what it is. No one does. But it's there. You are here. And that, for now, is enough. You're walking along on a winter morning. The sidewalk looks fine, maybe just a little frosty, kind of shiny. Then your foot hits the surface, and suddenly you're performing an involuntary gymnastics routine your joints did not train for. Ice. So smooth, so slick, so deceptively dangerous. But have you ever stopped to wonder, why is ice slippery? It seems like a question we should have answered by now, doesn't it? It's ice. It's been around forever. We skate on it, slide on it, fall dramatically on it in parking lots every winter. And yet, the truth is, science still doesn't entirely agree on why this frozen form of water is so determined to take your legs out from under you. At first glance, it sounds simple. Water freezes, it becomes solid, and that solid should have a texture like any other rough or smooth depending on the structure. But ice is special. It doesn't behave like a normal solid. It doesn't just sit there and mind its own business. Instead, it seems to create its own little cheat codea slippery layer of water on top of the solid surface. But where does that layer come from? One early theory, probably the one you heard in school, is pressure melting. The idea was that when you step on ice, your weight increases the pressure, which lowers the melting point of water just enough to form a thin liquid film. Your foot actually melts the ice beneath it, and you slide on that miniature puddle. It's a neat theory. It even sounds like science. Except it doesn't really hold up. You'd need an enormous amount of pressure to lower the melting point enough for this to work, especially at the temperatures where ice is really treacherous. Ice rinks, maybe, but sidewalks? Not so much. So scientists moved on to frictional heating, as in, when something moves across the ice your shoe, a skate bladder creates heat from friction, melting a microscopically thin layer on contact. This theory holds more water, so to speak. It explains why motion increases slipperiness. But here's the rub. Ice is slippery even when you're just standing still, even when it's way below freezing. No motion, no heat, still, slip. Enter the third and weirdest theory. Ice is always kind of wet. Even at extremely cold temperatures, the surface molecules of ice don't like to sit still. They jiggle, they vibrate, and they don't bond as tightly as the ones deeper down in the crystal structure. The result? A quasi-liquid layer on the surface at all times. Not quite water, not quite solid. Just slick enough to make your walk to the mailbox a small act of winter courage. This idea of a permanently unstable, semi-liquid surface has been gaining traction. It explains why ice is slippery, even without pressure or movement. It also lines up with more recent findings using atomic force microscopes and surface chemistry studies. Ice, it turns out, is literally too cool for stability. But here's the kicker. None of these theories fully cover all the behavior we observe. The slipperiness of ice varies with temperature, texture, motion, even humidity. The way your foot interacts with it depends on your footwear, your weight, the surface area of your step, and a dozen other tiny variables. Ice is not just a surface, it's a situation. And all of this makes the fact that we skate on it gracefully, even artistically, feel like some kind of elemental sorcery. Humans, in their infinite optimism, looked at a surface science barely understands and said, let's do triple axles on it. Tonight, as you slip under the covers, a much safer kind of slide, remember that the very ground beneath our winter boots is still playing tricks on us. That every icy sidewalk is a quiet little puzzle we haven't fully solved. That nature sometimes holds back its answers just to keep things interesting. Sleep tight and watch your step in the morning. It starts with a feeling. Maybe you're on an operating table. Maybe it's a car crash. Maybe time slows down as the world goes quiet and everything you thought was solid begins to unravel. Then, a tunnel, a light, a profound sense of peace. Some people say they float above their body, watching doctors scramble like ants around a dying form. Others hear music, voices. Some feel the presence of loved ones. Some review their entire life in an instant, not like a movie, but like being every version of themselves all at once. Welcome to the strange and stubborn mystery of near-death experiences. People have been reporting these for centuries. The details vary, but certain elements show up again and again. A sense of detachment from the body, a feeling of calm, a movement toward light, a voice saying, "Not yet." Sometimes there's a gate or a river or a boundary that can't be crossed. Then just like that, it's over. The person wakes up, usually in pain, often confused, and occasionally transformed. And here's the twist. These experiences aren't limited to the religious or spiritual. Atheists report them. Children, people of all cultures. Some interpret them as glimpses of the afterlife. Others think it's the brain's last big fireworks show, a final release of chemicals and memory and meaning before the lights go out for good. Science has tried to study NDE's near-death experiences, but it's tricky. You can't exactly schedule one. Most research comes from interviews, retrospective studies, or the rare cases where someone flatlines, is resuscitated, and remembers what happened in between. One theory is that the brain, deprived of oxygen, starts to shut down in stages. As the visual cortex goes offline, people report tunnels and lights. As the temporal lobe activates, memories flood in. The sense of floating might be a form of disassociation. The calm, the peace, that could be a rush of endorphins, a chemical farewell note. But that doesn't explain everything. In some cases, people report vivid details. They couldn't have known things that happened in the room while they were clinically dead. Equipment moved. Conversations held. Numbers on a machine. Skeptics say it's coincidence, confabulation, memory tricks. Believers say it's proof that consciousness can exist outside the body. And then there are the life reviews. People say they relive every moment not from their perspective, but from the perspective of others. They feel the joy they gave, the pain they caused, the ripple effects of every word and action. It's not judgment, it's understanding, like being given access to the emotional internet of your entire lifetime. Many return with a renewed sense of purpose. Others feel deeply unsettled. Some never talk about it again. There are also hellish NDS, less common, but just as vivid. Places of fear, isolation, torment. Not flames and pitchforks, but a sense of being utterly alone, trapped, separated from love. These experiences often prompt profound changes too, not always religious, just urgent, as if the person came back with a warning they can't quite explain. And here's the most curious thing. People who have near-death experiences often change afterward. Their fear of death diminishes. Their priorities shift. They describe a sense of connection to everything. A loss of ego, a deeper empathy. It's as if the brush with nothingness turned into something more, something beyond explanation or science or dogma. Are NDEs glimpses into an afterlife? Or are they the brain's way of protecting us from the horror of dying? Are they both? Neither. Some neuroscientists argue that we may never know, because the very nature of subjective experience, especially at the edge of life, is beyond the reach of instruments and peer review. Others say that by studying these moments, we can better understand what consciousness really is and whether it truly ends. But for now, we're left with stories, thousands of them, whispered in hospital rooms, scribbled into journals, shared anonymously online, each one different, yet strangely similar. Each one leaving the same quiet question behind: what happens when the lights go out? Tonight, as you drift into the soft darkness of sleep, consider this. We don't have to die to touch mystery. Sometimes it brushes against us in a heartbeat, a tunnel, a memory, a dream. And just maybe, on the other side of that gentle void, something is waiting. Or maybe it's just the brain saying goodbye in the most beautiful way it knows how. Let's start with the obvious. You're alive, reading this, breathing, blinking, probably digesting something. Your cells are humming along, copying DNA, generating energy, keeping you wonderfully upright. But zoom out a few billion years and there was nothing. No cells, no plants, no animals. Just a hot mess of chemicals floating in a very unfriendly ocean on a very unfriendly rock. Somehow, from that lifeless soup, we got you. Conscious, complicated, occasionally anxious. How? That's the origin of life, a question so big, so maddening, that we still don't have a satisfying answer. We've got theories, experiments, educated guesses, but the moment life first sparked, still a mystery. A very gooey, very ancient, very stubborn mystery. Scientists call it abiogenesis, the process by which life arises from non-life, not evolution. That comes later, once something's already replicating. This is the prequel. The part where Earth was just cooling off, the oceans were simmering like a cosmic crockpot, and molecules started bumping into each other with nowhere better to be. One popular theory is the primordial soup idea. Picture early Earth, lightning flashing, volcanoes spewing, the atmosphere thick with methane, ammonia, hydrogen. In this chaos, basic organic molecules, amino acids, nucleotides could have formed spontaneously. We know this is at least possible because in 1952, two scientists, Stanley Miller and Harold Urey, recreated those early conditions in a lab, zapped them with electricity, and got amino acids. Boom, the building blocks of life, in a flask. But amino acids aren't life. They're ingredients. You still need a recipe. Somehow, those molecules had to organize themselves into something that could copy itself. Something that could use energy, respond to its environment, evolve. In other words, a cell. The world's first extremely determined blob. Some think the first self-replicator was RNA, a molecule that can both store genetic information and catalyze reactions. This is called the RNA world hypothesis. It's elegant. Maybe little chains of RNA started forming randomly, some more stable than others. The successful ones stuck around. Natural selection kicked in long before anything had a face or a spine or a Twitter account. But RNA is fragile. It doesn't like to hang out without help. So how did it survive long enough to matter? Others point to deep-sea hydrothermal vents, those boiling towers at the bottom of the ocean, where heat and minerals spew out into the darkness. These places are chemical wonderlands. They create gradients differences in temperature and chemistry that could act like batteries, powering early reactions. Maybe life didn't start in a warm little pond, but in the black, pressurized depths where energy was literally pouring out of the earth. There are also lipid world theories, clay catalysis models, even panspermia the idea that life, or at least its building blocks, came from space. Comets, meteorites, cosmic dust. We've found organic molecules on asteroids and even interstellar clouds. Maybe we were seeded by the stars, like mold spores drifting across the galaxy. But even if we knew the how, the moment it happened is still lost. One molecule too many, one lightning strike too few, and none of this no trees, no whales, no awkward family dinner ever unfolds. Life is improbably fragile and absurdly persistent. Once it starts, it refuses to stop. It divides, mutates, adapts over and over for billions of years. From goo to cells, to fish, to dinosaurs, to medieval peasants, to baristas making oat milk lattes, and somewhere in that chain of chance and chemistry, you happened. Thinking about your own origin story, maybe wondering how a few molecules decided, against all odds, to do something more than just float around forever. We may never know the exact spark, the first twitch, the first something that turned into someone, but it happened. And the proof is right there beating quietly in your chest, flickering behind your eyes, keeping you here for now. So as you drift off tonight, think about that ancient soup, that restless chemistry, that impossible moment that turned the universe from quiet to curious. You don't need to understand it to be part of it. You're already the miracle it left behind. Let's begin with this. If you fell into a black hole, you wouldn't know what hit you until, of course, it literally tore you into a long, screaming spaghetti noodle. That's because black holes are not just dense or dark. They are cosmic mysteries wrapped in gravity so intense that space, time, and physics itself start to quietly lose their minds. A black hole forms when a massive star collapses under its own gravity. The star's fuel runs out, and its core implodes. What's left is an object with so much mass packed into so little space that nothing, not even light, can escape. That's why it's black. Not because it's dark like a cave, but because the laws of escape just stop working. Surrounding the black hole is the event horizon. Think of it as the point of no return. Cross it and you're done. From the outside, nothing inside the event horizon can be observed. No signals, no messages, no "help, I made a mistake" tweets. It's like a one-way glass door where everything enters, but nothing comes out. Even information seems to vanish. So, what's inside? Let's start with the simple, but deeply unsatisfying answer. We don't know. That's not a cop-out. It's physics being honest. According to general relativity, once matter crosses the event horizon, it collapses toward a single point of infinite density, called a singularity. At that point, space and time as we understand them no longer exist. Gravity becomes infinite. Math breaks, equations cry. But here's the problem. General relativity, Einstein's beloved theory of gravity, stops working at singularities. It's like trying to run Windows 95 on a toaster. Things get weird. So to understand what's really inside a black hole, we'd need a theory that combines general relativity with quantum mechanics, something we don't fully have yet. That holy grail is known as quantum gravity. And until we figure it out, the inside of a black hole remains a locked room with no windows. Some physicists think there might not be a true singularity at all, that something quantum effects, exotic matter, cosmic censorship might prevent infinite density from ever forming. Others think the singularity is real, but hidden forever behind the event horizon, safely out of sight, like the weird cousin no one invites to dinner. Then there's the information paradox, one of the most hotly debated problems in modern physics. If black holes erase everything that falls into them, matter, energy, information, that breaks the rules of quantum mechanics, which insists information can never be truly destroyed. So where does it go? Some think it's somehow encoded in the black hole's surface, what's called the holographic principle. Others think it leaks out slowly as Hawking radiation, a faint thermal glow predicted by Stephen Hawking, which causes black holes to eventually evaporate over trillions of years. So now we're talking about things evaporating, bleeding information, possibly being holograms, and still, no one has peeked inside. We also can't rule out the possibility that the interior of a black hole doesn't just end, but lead somewhere. A tunnel, a bridge, a wormhole maybe. A connection to another part of the universe or a different universe entirely. Some solutions in Einstein's equations allow for this, but they're extremely speculative and not currently testable. Still, it's fun to imagine. Maybe inside every black hole is the birth of another universe. A big bang tucked inside an impossibly small dot. Maybe that's where all your missing socks go. Until we figure it out, black holes remain the universe's most extreme vaults. They hoard matter, swallow light, bend time, and challenge everything we think we know about reality. They're both terrifying and beautiful cosmic tombstones and theoretical gateways all at once. So tonight, as you drift into sleep and your thoughts begin to fold in on themselves, imagine that quiet place at the center of a black hole. Not black like night, but black like silence. No up, no down, no time. Just the soft roar of everything being pulled inward. We may never know what's inside, but sometimes the not knowing is the best part. Imagine you have two particlestiny tiny things, smaller than atoms, so small you can't even say where they are, without getting a probability curve involved. Now imagine you do something very quantum-y to them, and suddenly they become connected, entangled. Not like earbuds in your pocket, more like cosmic soulmates. You mess with one of them, and the other one reacts instantly, no matter how far apart they are. Could be 10 feet, 10 light years, or the length of your procrastinated to-do list. Touch one, and the other one flinches, like a ghostly handshake across the universe. This is quantum entanglement, or, as Einstein famously called it, spooky action at a distance. And coming from the man who brought us relativity, that's saying something. Einstein hated the idea, not because it didn't it works, but because it didn't fit with his tidy, local, speed-of-light universe. In his view, nothing, not even information, should travel faster than light. Yet here's quantum mechanics, dragging its weird, magical suitcase into the room, saying, yeah, but what if two particles are basically the same thing, even if they're on opposite ends of the cosmos? Let's back up. Entanglement happens when two particles interact in such a way that their quantum states become linked. Think of it like creating a pair of dice that always roll together. If you roll a 6 on one, the other must be a 6 too, or a 1 and a 5, or whatever combo quantum mechanics decides is allowed. The key is that once you observe one particle, you instantly know what the other one's doing, even if it's halfway across the galaxy. And this instantness, that's the spooky part. To make it even weirder, before you measure one, neither particle has a definite state. They're in a haze of maybes, a cloud of possibilities. But the moment you measure one, bam, the cloud collapses, and the other one's reality snaps into place too. It's like opening one envelope and instantly knowing what's in the sealed twin envelope on Mars. Does this mean you could use entanglement to send messages faster than light? Sadly, no. You can't control the outcome of your measurement. The particles are connected, but not in a way you can exploit to send hey texts across space. It's not faster than light communication. It's more like faster than light correlation. And while that may not get you a quantum phone plan, it does drive physicists slightly bonkers. Still, entanglement is very real. It's been proven in labs. Repeatedly, particles split, sent miles apart, still show matching results when measured. And we're not just playing with theory. Hair entanglement is the foundation of quantum computing, quantum cryptography, and other things that sound like they were invented in a Marvel movie. It's also forcing scientists to rethink what separate even means. Maybe space isn't as disconnected as we think. Maybe there's an underlying reality more interconnected than we can perceive. Or maybe, as some suggest, particles don't send information to each other. They just are parts of a whole, forever synced by a dance we barely understand. Philosophers love this. Are the particles communicating? Is time even a factor? Is the universe secretly non-local, like one big tangled bedsheet? All we know for sure is this: quantum entanglement is real, repeatable, and relentlessly confusing. And while we don't know exactly how it works, it's here, tucked into the tiniest crevices of reality, quietly defying everything we thought we knew about cause and effect, space and time, me and you. So as you drift off tonight, imagine two little particles, maybe electrons, maybe photons, spinning together across the void, dancing in perfect, eerie sync. They don't care how far apart they are. They don't care if they're being watched. They just are, bound forever by the spooky heartbeat of the quantum world. Sleep well. Somewhere out there, your entangled twin particle is snoozing too. It sits in a library at Yale, quiet and smug, like an ancient puzzle box nobody's cracked, bound in soft vellum, pages yellowed with age, covered in neat, flowing script that looks like writing but isn't. Or maybe it is, just not any language anyone can read. Hundreds of pages. Strange plants that don't exist. Astrological diagrams that don't match the stars. Naked women bathing in green goo. It's called the Voynich manuscript, and after more than 600 years, it remains one of the most gloriously stubborn mysteries in the world. And it's not like people haven't tried. Cryptographers, historians, linguists, computer scientists, World War II codebreakers, AI, read it. All of them have stared into the swirly, looping script and come back scratching their heads. Some thought it was a lost language. Others insisted it was a hoax. One person even claimed it was written in glossolalia spirit language, as in divinely inspired gibberish. The manuscript gets its name from Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish rare book dealer who bought it in 1912 from a Jesuit college in Italy. But it's much older than that. Carbon dating puts the parchment somewhere in the early 1400s, and yet it just appeared. No author, no backstory. Just a fully formed enigma sliding into European history like it owned the place. Open it, and you're greeted by a parade of bizarre plants, none of which can be identified. Some look like they were designed by someone who heard about botany third hand. Others seem plausible, until you realize their roots loop into spirals and their leaves look suspiciously like imaginary fish. There's a whole herbal section, complete with labeled parts and diagrams, but none of it lines up with any known tradition. Not medieval European, not Arabic, not Asian, just Voynician. Then there's the astronomical section, circles within circles, constellations that don't match Earth's sky, zodiac signs with mismatched months, suns and moons and stars in endless loops. One diagram seems to suggest the motion of planets, but around what exactly? The script never says. And then the infamous balneological section, page after page of naked women bathing in what looks like interconnected hot tubs, linked by green tubes that may or may not represent rivers, intestines, or some kind of ancient plumbing fever dream. They hold stars. They dip things into water. Their expressions are blank. Their purpose, unknown. The writing itself? It flows like a real language, consistent rules, repeating patterns, sentence structure. But it doesn't match any known script, past or present. No Rosetta Stone to save us. Some researchers believe it's a sophisticated cipher. Others think it's an invented language. A few argue it's a prank. A very elaborate, very time-consuming prank made by someone with a lot of ink and a suspicious sense of humor. Even AI has taken a swing. In recent years, neural networks have been trained on hundreds of languages to try and find similarities. Results? Interesting, but inconclusive. Like everything else about the Voynich manuscript, the harder you stare, the more it stares back, unimpressed. And here's the thing, if it is nonsense, it's incredibly convincing nonsense. The consistency is too high, the effort too great. Why would anyone spend months, maybe years, crafting an entire book of fake botany, astrology, anatomy, and language for no audience, no gain, and no context? Unless, of course, it wasn't for us at all. Maybe it was a private notebook, a code only the author could read. Maybe it's a book of alchemy, or medicine, or magic. Maybe the secret was passed down orally. Maybe it was lost in a fire. Maybe it was never meant to be understood. Or maybe, and this is the most wonderful, maybe it's just what it looks like. A message in a bottle, sent from a parallel world. A dream that floated ashore. A puzzle with no answer. Tonight, as you drift off to sleep, think of the Voynich manuscript, quietly waiting on its shelf, pages gently curled at the edges, full of meaning that never quite arrives. Still here. Still weird. Still unreadable. And still whispering something only the dreaming mind might understand. You're mid-sentence. Maybe you stumbled on your words. Maybe someone paid you an unexpected compliment. Maybe you tripped up the stairs in front of 3 coworkers and a latte. And then bam! The heat rises. Your cheeks flush. Your ears burn. And your body, without asking, sets off a bright red flare, announcing to everyone in the room, "Hey, this person feels awkward right now." Welcome to the uniquely human, totally involuntary phenomenon of blushing, a biological highlighter for your deepest social anxieties, the only emotional state that comes with built-in mood lighting. The weirdest part? We have no idea why it exists. Blushing has no predator defense, no survival value, It doesn't help you hide, fight, flee, or attract a mate. It doesn't stop bleeding, heal wounds, or boost strength. In fact, it does the opposite, calls attention to you. Usually, when you're desperately hoping for the opposite. Nature tends to be a fan of efficiency. Traits that waste energy or paint big red targets on your face generally don't stick around. And yet, blushing did. It's one of the only physical responses that's specifically social. You don't blush when you're cold, or in pain, or exercising. You blush when your reputation feels at risk. When you're being watched, judged, when you think you might have broken a social rule, even if nobody says so out loud, your face becomes a billboard for internal panic. It's like your nervous system yells, "Sorry," before your mouth catches up. Darwin called blushing the most peculiar and most human of all expressions. He was fascinated by it partly because no other animal does it, and partly because it seems to contradict natural selection. Why evolve a feature that screams vulnerability? Some psychologists think it's a kind of honesty alarm, a non-verbal apology, a way of showing others that you recognize a mistake, feel bad about it, and want to be accepted anyway. In other words, yes, I spilled soup on myself in this important meeting. And no, I'm not trying to pretend otherwise. The blush says, I know. And that kind of transparency might have helped early humans get forgiven faster. In tight social groups, admission of guilt is a survival strategy. Others suggest blushing helps reduce aggression. If you're caught doing something embarrassing, a blush signals you're not a threat. You're submitting. You're self-conscious. Please don't exile me from the tribe. Look, I'm glowing with shame. Isn't that enough? Neurologically, blushing involves the sympathetic nervous system, the same one that controls fight or flight. Except instead of preparing for danger, it floods the blood vessels in your face, particularly the cheeks and neck, making them dilate. More blood equals more red. And once it starts, good luck. You can't will it to stop. In fact, trying to stop it usually makes it worse. You know the moment, the heat rising, the awareness of the heat, the awareness of being aware. Now you're blushing about blushing. Welcome to the spiral. Some people blush more than others. For them, it can be intense. Social anxiety levels of intense. There's even a condition called erythrophobia, the fear of blushing, which, as you can imagine, is a self-fulfilling disaster. And yet, even in those cases, we still don't have a clear answer for why the body insists on doing this in the first place. Could it be a glitch? A side effect of another, more useful mechanism? Or is it a clever, subtle form of emotional language, one that speaks louder than words? No one knows for sure, but what we do know is that blushing doesn't mean you're weak. It means you care. You care what people think. You want to belong. You're human, and your body is broadcasting your inner life whether you like it or not. That's kind of beautiful, kind of terrible, kind of us. So tonight, as you curl into your blanket, warm and safe and unobserved, remember this. Evolution gave us 100 strange tools, some for building, some for surviving, and just one for turning our face the color of fresh embarrassment. Maybe the next time it happens, you'll blush a little less at the blushing. Or maybe you'll just blame the lighting. Every fall, tiny birds the size of your fist disappear into the sky, heading south with a kind of quiet determination that feels both magical and vaguely insulting. No maps, no smartphone, no printed out directions from their mom, just wings and vibes, thousands of miles, over mountains, across oceans, through rain, wind, and occasionally airports without getting lost. How? Seriously, how? This is the mystery of avian migration. We know that birds migrate. We know when they do it. We've tagged them, tracked them, even launched satellites to follow their routes. But the big question, the one that gnaws at biologists and makes Google Maps engineers feel personally attacked, is how do they know where to go? And not just once, year after year, generation after generation. Some birds fly the same route thousands of miles, despite never having been taught, and they nail it. The answer, so far, is a giant shrug wrapped in feathers. Let's start with what we do know. Birds seem to use a combination of cues: the position of the sun during the day, the stars at night, wind patterns, landmarks, and even smells. Yes, smells, like a pigeon sniffing its way to Paris. But those are just pieces of the puzzle. There's one particularly juicy clue: Earth's magnetic field. Scientists have found evidence that birds can literally sense it, not just feel it like static electricity, but see it like a built-in compass overlay in their vision. They might be watching the planet's magnetic field like it's a glowing wireframe grid laid over the landscape, gently guiding them home. The leading theory? A protein in their eyes called cryptochrome might react to the magnetic field in a quantum chemical kind of way. That's right, quantum biology. Your neighborhood robin might be running calculations that would make your laptop sweat. Researchers believe this protein could help birds see magnetic direction as a kind of shading in their visual field, like watching invisible lines across the sky. Let that sink in. Birds might have magnetic vision, like actual evolutionary superpowers. And what do we get? Sunburn and lower back pain. But it gets weirder. Young migratory birds that have never made the journey still know where to go. It's called instinctive vector navigation. They're born with an internal map and a rough compass heading. Meanwhile, adult birds seem to update their routes based on experience, landmarks, and probably judgmental bird gossip. Some birds, like Arctic terns, travel over 40 miles a year. Others, like bar-tailed godwits, fly non-stop for 70 miles without food, rest, or even a bathroom break. All this with a brain the size of a peanut, a salty, migratory peanut. We've tried to test their navigation skills. Scientists have put tiny magnetic hats on pigeons, released birds in unfamiliar locations, and even temporarily confused them with fake magnetic fields. And while we've learned a lot, we're still not entirely sure how it feels to navigate that way. Do they experience direction? Do they see north? Or is it something deeper, less conscious-like, an itch in their feathers that says, turn left at Greenland? So tonight, as you drift off under your warm blanket, imagine the sky above you dotted with wings, quiet silhouettes tracing invisible highways in the dark. No panic, no second-guessing. Just ancient knowledge humming in their blood, telling them where home is even when they've never been there before. No GPS, no road signs. Just knowing, rude, and amazing. You drop a glass, it shatters. The sound rings out, shards spread everywhere, and there's no reversing it unless you're in a movie or rewinding a security tape. In real life, broken things stay broken. Coffee cools, people age, candles melt, and time marches on. Always forward, never backward. We accept this like gravity or taxes. But why? Why does time move in one direction? Physics, annoyingly, doesn't really insist that it should. At the microscopic level, the level of atoms and particles, the laws of physics, are pretty chill about direction. Equations work just as well forward as backward. If you filmed molecules bouncing around and played it in reverse, no one could tell. To the universe, time doesn't have a preferred direction. And yet, here we are, living in a world where eggs only crack, not uncrack, where memories accumulate behind us, but never in front, where tomorrow is always coming, and yesterday is always gone. This, scientists call the arrow of time, and we're all stuck riding it. So what gives? One of the main culprits is entropy. It's a thermodynamic term, basically, a measure of disorder. The universe, for reasons still being unpacked, seems to love increasing entropy. A tidy room gets messy. An ice cube melts. A perfect system decays into chaos. That's entropy climbing. And the second law of thermodynamics says it always does. This rising entropy is often used to explain why time feels like it flows one way. Going from order to disorder is easy. Going from disorder to order takes effort or a rewind button. The direction of increasing entropy gives time its push. Time moves forward because the universe is tumbling forward, from the neat, compact beginnings of the Big Bang to the vast, scattered, slowly cooling cosmos we live in now. But that still doesn't explain time. It just points to a trend. Some physicists suggest that time might not be fundamental at all, that it's an emergent property, something that appears when we zoom out, like how traffic isn't a thing at the level of one car, but becomes a phenomenon when lots of cars pile up. Maybe time is just what change looks like from our narrow point of view. And yet, the arrow feels real. We feel it in our bones. We're born, we grow, we remember the past, not the future. Our lives are little timelines, complete with clocks, calendars, aging skin, and a collection of increasingly dusty concert t-shirts. There's no practical way to jump tracks, skip ahead, or rewind. We are bound to the one-way flow. But it gets stranger. In certain equations related to black holes and quantum gravity, time gets weird. In some interpretations of quantum mechanics, all possible futures already exist in a branching tree of probabilities. In others, time is just another dimension. Like space, you could, theoretically, move through it if you had the right kind of vehicle. But we don't. We get dragged along, second by second, unable to hit pause. Einstein called time an illusion. He said that for a physicist, the distinction between past, present, and future is a stubbornly persistent illusion. According to relativity, time slows down the faster you go, or the closer you are to a massive object. In fact, GPS satellites have to correct for this, or your directions would be wildly off. Time, it turns out, is not universal. It's personal, local, squishy. So, why does it only move one way? Maybe it's just memory. Maybe it's thermodynamics. Maybe it's built into the universe at a level we can't see yet. Or maybe time isn't moving at all. Maybe we are surfing along a frozen river, one moment at a time. Tonight, as your body winds down and your thoughts begin to float, think about the seconds slipping by. They never stop, never double back. They're tiny, silent footsteps, walking you forward into the future, even while you sleep. The arrow of time points forward, always has, except maybe when it doesn't. But you'll never know until you get there. Imagine you've lost an arm, not metaphorically really gone, amputated, surgically removed, no longer part of your physical body, but sometime later you feel an itch on your missing fingers. Or your hand is clenched so tight it hurts, but there's no hand there to unclench. You reach out in a dream, grab something, swear you felt pressure, and then wake up, realizing your arm hasn't existed for months. This is the strange, haunting phenomenon known as phantom limbs, when the body is gone, but the feeling refuses to follow. It's one of the most surreal medical mysteries we know, somewhere between neurology, psychology, and metaphysics. Because even though we know the limb is missing, the experience of it isn't. In fact, up to 80% of amputees report feeling sensations in their lost limb: stouch, pressure, pain, temperature. Some say it's like the limb is still there, only invisible. Others say it moves on its own. Some feel nothing at all until a weather change, or a dream, or a memory brings it roaring back like a ghost knocking on the door. And it's not just arms and legs. Phantom breasts after mastectomy, phantom tongues after oral surgery, phantom toes, even when the entire foot is gone. One case involved a woman who lost part of her nose and later reported a phantom sneeze. So what causes this ghostly persistence? It starts in the brain. Your body is mapped out across your brain's surface in what's called the somatosensory cortex, a kind of biological dashboard with a section for each part of you. Hands, feet, lips, even internal organs. This map is incredibly detailed and incredibly stubborn. When you lose a limb, the map doesn't instantly erase the limb's space. The brain keeps expecting input from it, like someone waiting for a phone call from a number that no longer exists. With no signals coming in, the brain sometimes makes up its own, filling in the silence with phantom sensations, including pain, like a neurological hallucination. Sometimes, the nearby areas on the brain map invade the abandoned space. The region that used to control your hand gets taken over by the face, or the shoulder, or the stump. So, you might feel your missing fingers when you scratch your cheek, or feel like your foot is twisted painfully backward, even though it's not there at all. It's unsettling and fascinating, a reminder that our sense of self isn't just in our muscles or bones, but in the patterns and expectations of our nervous system. One of the more famous attempts to treat phantom limb pain came from neuroscientist Vilayanur Ramachandran, who developed the mirror box, a simple device. You place your intact limb into one side of the box and your stump into the other. A mirror creates the illusion that your missing limb is back and moving. For many, this visual feedback actually rewires the brain's expectation, relieving pain or restoring a sense of control. It's not perfect, not permanent, but it's one of the rare therapies where illusion becomes medicine. Some researchers think phantom limb experiences may unlock deeper truths about the brain's plasticity, its ability to adapt, rewire, and persist in the face of change. Others see it as a window into the mystery of consciousness itself. How much of your identity is physical, and how much is just the brain believing in itself? Because that's the real twist. Phantom limbs aren't a glitch. They're a sign that the brain remembers you, all of you, even the parts that aren't there anymore. It's not just about nerves or stumps or signals, it's about the ghost of normalcy trying to find its way home. So tonight, as you settle into your bed, limbs tucked beneath the covers, take a moment to feel your body not just as a shape, but as a presence, an echo your brain holds onto. A constellation of signals, mapped and remembered, even in absence. We are more than what we are made of. And sometimes, the missing parts still whisper. You're in a quiet room, maybe a library, a funeral, or that painfully serious Zoom meeting. Then something happens. Maybe it's a memory, a whispered joke. Someone accidentally mutes themselves and keeps talking with total confidence, and you feel it, that rising tickle in your chest, the pressure building behind your ribs, your face contorts. You snort, or wheeze, or burst into that helpless, stuttering sound humans make when their brains decide logic is taking a short coffee break. Laughter, one of the strangest things we do. It's weird, if you really think about it. Air blasts out of your lungs in sudden, rhythmic bursts. Your face scrunches up like you're in pain. Your eyes might water. Your abs might cramp. Sometimes you double over, lose the ability to breathe, or make noises that sound like a vacuum cleaner trying to cry. It's uncontrollable, involuntary, contagious. And despite all the joy it brings, science still doesn't really know why we do it. It's not just because something's funny. That's the usual explanation, sure, but it doesn't hold up under a microscope. People laugh at things that aren't jokes, at awkward moments, at confusion, at boredom, and babies adorably unburdened by sarcasm or stand-up comedy start laughing before they can even speak. You tickle them, and they burst into giggles, like it's a reflex. Because it kind of is. Laughter might be older than language. That's one theory. Some evolutionary psychologists think it began as a social bonding tool. Primitive humans lived in groups, and groups require trust. Laughter, in this theory, is like a vocal handshake, a way to say, I'm safe, I'm with you, I'm not a threat, a burst of shared emotion that tells the group, this is okay, and the more people laugh together, the stronger their sense of connection. It's kind of brilliant when you think about it. No explanation needed, no translation required. Just open your mouth, let out a breathy wheeze, and suddenly everyone's on the same wavelength. Animals do it took and of. Chimps and rats both have laughter-like responses. Even dogs seem to laugh in their own way during play. It's not as rich or complex as ours, but the roots may go deep. But that doesn't explain the variety of things we laugh at. Slapstick, irony, puns, schadenfreude, nervous laughter, laughing at your own pain, laughing when you want to cry. Sometimes we laugh because something violates expectations. Our brain sees a pattern, then watches it break. The surprise releases tension. Cue laughter. That's the incongruity theory. Basically, humor is when your brain goes, "Wait, what?" and then quickly decides it's not dangerous. Then there's relief theory, the idea that laughter is a pressure valve. Life is stressful, confusing, absurd. Laughter is the brain's way of releasing built-up emotional steam. Aha! Instead of a scream. But not every laugh is the same. There's the polite chuckle, the snarky cackle, the uncontrollable, helpless, belly-shaking explosion that leaves you gasping for air. Some people laugh like bells, others like engines stalling. There are laughs that soothe and laughs that cut. Some are joyful, others not so much. And laughter is deeply social. You're 30 times more likely to laugh when you're with someone else than when you're alone. It's not about jokes, it's about people. You might laugh just because someone else is laughing, even if you don't know why. That's how contagious it is. So, if it's so powerful, why haven't we nailed down the science? Because laughter lives at the intersection of biology, psychology, and culture. It's an emotional sneeze wrapped in social nuance. It involves brain circuits tied to emotion, memory, language, and motor control. It's influenced by context, mood, upbringing, even how much sleep you've had. Try dissecting that in a lab. Still, researchers are trying. MRI scans show laughter lighting up multiple parts of the brain. Comedians are studied like behavioral scientists. Even robots are being trained to detect laughter, though none have figured out how to earn it. Yet, so tonight, as you wind down, maybe with a small smile still hanging on from earlier in the day, think about that strange little reflex we all share. The one that bursts out when words don't cut it. The one that makes awkward moments bearable and good moments unforgettable. It's weird. It's sudden. It's unexplained. And it just might be the most human sound there is. Close your eyes for a moment and try to imagine nothing. Not a blank canvas, not a dark room, not empty space. Truly, nothing. No time, no space, no matter, no vacuum, no up, no down, no you to do the imagining. Just pure, absolute nothingness. Now picture that nothing suddenly becoming everything. That's the Big Bang. Or at least, the moment we think our universe began roughly 13.8 billion years ago, when all the energy and matter that would ever exist burst into being from a single, unimaginably dense point. No warning, no reason we can prove. Just bang. And then space itself started expanding faster than the speed of light. And if that sounds ridiculous, it's because it absolutely is. But the math checks out, kind of. The Big Bang Theory isn't called that because there was an actual bang. There was no explosion, no shockwave in space, because space itself was being created. It's not that the universe expanded into empty space. It's that space itself was stretching, inflating like cosmic dough with raisins of matter inside, all moving away from each other, without any need for a center or edges. We can't see the actual Big Bang, but we can see its echo, cosmic microwave background radiation, a faint, ancient glow left over from when the universe cooled just enough to let light travel freely. It's been stretched and redshifted over billions of years, and it's still humming through the cosmos like a lullaby from the beginning of time. So, what caused it? That's the part science hasn't pinned down. The equations describing the Big Bang break down as you approach T equals 0, the so-called singularity, infinite density, infinite temperature. Physics throws its hands up. General relativity says one thing, quantum mechanics says another. And when those two start fighting, you know you're looking at something deeply, deeply fundamental. Some physicists propose that the universe came from a quantum fluctuation, a random blip in a vacuum field. That even nothing isn't really nothing, just a restless sea of potential where particles pop in and out of existence. Maybe one of those blips lasted. Maybe it was our blip. Others think the universe may have always existed in some form, that what we call the Big Bang was just a bounce moment of reversal in a larger cosmic cycle. Expansion, collapse, repeat. Like breathing, but with galaxies. There's even the idea of a multiverse, that our universe is one of countless bubbles in an ever-expanding foam of realities, each with its own laws, constants, and Netflix algorithms. In that model, the Big Bang is just a local event, one of many, a cosmic neighborhood block party. And yet, we still come back to the question, how do you get something from nothing? Is that even a fair question? Maybe the nothing we imagine isn't the true baseline of reality. Maybe time itself began with the Big Bang. So asking what came before is like asking what's north of the North Pole. Maybe causality doesn't apply. Maybe the question only exists because our brains evolved to survive in a world of beginnings and ends. The universe, it turns out, doesn't care what makes sense to us. What we do know is that everything we are, every atom in your body, every star in the sky, every page of every book comes from that moment. The Big Bang didn't just create matter, it created time, space, physics, the rules that would eventually allow hydrogen to form, to fuse into helium, to forge carbon, and eventually produce things like oceans, trees, podcasts, anxiety, jazz music, and you. So tonight, as you lie in bed, floating gently on your mattress like a speck on a speck in an expanding universe, let this thought settle in. There was once nothing, and now there is you. Reading this, breathing, existing, made from stardust, wrapped in curiosity, asking questions that might not have answers. Where did everything come from? No, seriously, where? Maybe the mystery is the point.